The Halo universe is filled with wonder, mystery, and fascinating discoveries around every corner. With so much to explore, four friends decided it was about time that they boot up the consoles and discuss this universe that has grabbed their attention since childhood. JumperScape Audio kindly welcomes you to join them in the library.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the library, where we talk about Halo lore with friends. Except Shane. Shane isn't here for this one.
He sucks.
He had other important things to. I think he went to sleep.
Who sleeps? Who does
Not
that
you.
these days? That is correct. You are 100% right.
James, how are you sleeping these days?
That's all I have to say about that.
Unfortunate.
I gotta say, gentlemen, invest in a sleep mask. They make it look like it's a corny thing that only 87-year-old men use, but they're so helpful. They're great.
I need to find one that like blocks out enough, because I got one. I got the Manta Sleep.
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I don't know if it's the position of the eye things or what, but I need to find one that blocks out enough light and also doesn't feel too restrictive. Otherwise, it keeps me from like being comfortable.
I mean, those eye cups are Velcro. You can move them.
I know, like that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if I'm just not getting the right placement of them, but like I feel like to keep it from slipping off or just being in the wrong place, I have to have it too tight, and then it's a problem. But yeah, I have been thinking about looking into some different ones.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of sleep masks, we're going to be talking about Shield Worlds today on the Halo Library pod. I can't call it the Halo Library pod. That's legally not okay. I can't call it that. Welcome to the library. We talk about Halo lore.
The library. That is all.
The library. The ride.
The roller coaster.
Oh gosh, you know what? Halo themed amusement park. Why isn't it there? James, you've designed like 7 of them. Why aren't they here yet?
Good question. I don't know. I've sent my Planet Coaster save files to several amusement park chains. They've not gotten back to me. Apparently, it costs millions and billions of dollars,
or something
ridiculous.
Like that. Utterly preposterous. Well, ladies and gents, today we're talking about Shield Worlds. Guys, I am new to Halo. What is a Shield World?
Well, you see, you have a world and you sort of put a shield over it. Right?
Now I might not know anything about Halo, but that's not what a Shield World is.
Okay, so Shield World, Forerunner construct, where there's Forerunner stuff on the outside, and on the inside is world.
That's also, I mean, that's all of that is true, but it's not what a Shield World is technically still. It's okay. It's okay, guys. Hold on. I just finished playing through all the games and reading all the books. So let me...
Just now.
Just me. So, all right, Shield Worlds. What are they? Where do they come from? Where are they going? They come from the Forerunners, and they're going to be destroyed at some point, probably, but it's okay. Shield Worlds are the most unoriginal thing in the Halo universe, probably. Because it's a Dyson sphere, and the amount of sci-fi things that have Dyson spheres in them is numerous. When your concept is in Spaceballs, you probably need to realize that it's probably a done sort of gimmick. But who am I to judge Mr. Greg Bear himself? I can't. So, and also technically, I mean, the Halos were pulled from a book series too, Ring World, but we're not gonna talk about. I need to read those books and see how closely related those things are. But Shield worlds were developed by the Didact a long time ago. Because he was like, listen, Master Builder, love your concept for the Halos. Really big fan of galactic-wide genocide. How about instead of that, we just make planets that can't get breached by the flood, and we just live out our days on those contained worlds. And then boom, we just wait until the flood starves itself, and then we release everything back into the galaxy, reseed everything. The life workers are like, that's a great idea. Librarian's like, I love you, husband. Thank you for this. And then the council's like, that's a great idea. I really like that. Master Builder, what have you to say? That's stupid. I can do the exact same thing. I can just put dirt on the inside of my Halo.
Just put some dirt on there.
Exactly. And so the council is like, wow, that's really cool. All right, we're going to go with the Halo thing. And Didact, mad, makes a lot of the Shield worlds anyway, because he had the resources for it. And also, I don't know, the Forerunners were pretty much just taking whatever measures they could to try to make things happen. So they weren't really used. There's still life on them, obviously, so they were at least to some degree operational. But for the ones that we've seen so far, there's not that many. There was definitely more Halos than there were Shield worlds, although their names are a little interesting since their number system implies that there were literally thousands of Shield worlds. So whatever happened to the Shield worlds, don't know. There's not that many that have been seen now, though, so that's just what we've got.
Some of them may or may not be in other dimensions.
That's neither here nor there. And that's exactly what it is to be in a different dimension.
Exactly. You nailed what it is.
So, the way that a Shield world works, though, is that it's like the outside can be real terrain. It can be like an actual planet instead of the metal that surrounds Requiem. But inside the sphere is another like bit of terrain that's, you know, like a planet in a planet. And then the inside of that planet is hollow. So there's a surface, and then there's a surface under the surface, and then there's an energy sphere in the center that's powering the whole thing and also acting like a surrogate sun. And then that's the whole Shield world. That's just kind of how it operates.
Also, I think there's different types.
There are definitely different types. Because there were these initial designs which were basically like Requiem. That's just, you know, it was the first. That was the original Shield world. Hence why the Didact was stored on it by Librarian, because it was his little baby. The one that was most commonly used was the conservation sphere. That's the one that's like, I think as far as I'm aware, that's the kind of one that you saw in Halo Wars.
Would it be a sphere of conservation, perhaps?
It was designed for that very purpose, so you could say that.
Wow.
If you wanted to.
The Forerunners are really creative with their naming.
So it's kind of interesting because there are some way stations that are used on like different planets that allow you to find where some of these conservation spheres are nearby. Like there was a facility on Harvest that allowed you to find local.
A little off topic, but is it not redundant to call them Halo rings?
So here's the thing. Now you've caused a problem because here's the thing. For real. That has been a topic of discussion for a little while now, because originally the Forerunners never called them Halos. They called them just the Rings, because that's what they were. They were the Rings. And the Halo was a name that was seemingly originally just a dubbed name from the Covenant to turn the Rings into a holy thing, the Halos.
Ah.
But
they also call them the Holy Rings.
Yes. So it's like there's the rings, and then there's the Holy Rings, and then there's the Halos. The Holy Rings,
the
and
Halo
the
Rings.
Yes, and the Halo Ring. And so like those last three names, those were all dubbed. Like those were supposed to be like this is the title of the thing, but they're originally just called the Rings. But the problem happened when Greg Bear God rest his soul. Great writer. Fantastic. He made the Forerunners say Halo ring all the time. And so because of that, people were like, oh no, they called them Halos for some reason.
Oh no.
Because that's the thing, is that like Forerunners, despite their whole addiction to the mantle, weren't exactly religious, because they were very, very time immemorial kind of beings. So from being able to see the origins of the galaxy to all the way now, and they know where the origin came from, aside from praying to the mantle or the precursors, there's really no major religion or religious thing to look at. They were more generational. They cared about their ancestors and everything more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it wouldn't make any sense for them to call them, like, give them a nickname like that, because they didn't really, like, they had nicknames, of course. Like, they had their ships that had these fancy names. I mean, the Dreadnought, that was the thing that, like, that's a name for a ship. They clearly named things, but they didn't call it Halos. And it's like, it is redundant, first of all, to call it a Halo ring. But second of all, it's like, they didn't call them that. And so when it looks like the Covenant called them Halos as an extra layer on the deception cake, now it's just, they know that it's called Halo. And, you know, we're not going to talk about the moment in Combat Evolved, the first mission, where you could walk up to the console and you can see that clearly on the display panel, it's addressing the ring below as Halo, as if they already know it's called the Halo ring, even though they just discovered it 2 seconds ago. And the other plot hole of how does Keyes speak Sangheili, and also why are the Sangheili talking about the Halo ring in the prison cell, and why do they know so much about the Halo ring despite having just found it? But that's fine. In the director commentary of the game, they addressed it too. They called that scene, what was it? They called it the exposition dump scene, because they didn't know where else to exposition.
Yeah.
So, does that answer your question, James? It's redundant because we don't know. It got confusing, and now things are confusing forever with that. So for now, it's just redundant because it's redundant, and also it's cool to say Halo ring. It runs off the tongue. It rolls off the tongue.
Halo ring, I guess. I mean, Halo or ring would also work. But if you just called it a ring, then you might get confused with Lord of the Rings.
I don't think I would do that.
If someone walked up to you and said, "This is the ring," do you think Halo or do you think Lord of the Rings?
It depends. Is the ring a couple centimeters in diameter, or like 10,000?
Okay. Let's say you overhear a conversation where someone says, all you hear is the ring. Do you assume they're talking about Halo, or do you assume they're talking about Lord of the Rings?
Are they 30 years old or 60?
As a person who has not watched Lord of the Rings out of spite, I think of Halo. Yeah, it's because everyone yells at me for not seeing it, so now I'm just not seeing it for that reason.
Oh.
I will say, as a person who also was doing that, I did really like the movie, and I did not regret going to see the re-release in theaters when the 30-year anniversary came out.
They're good movies, especially the extended.
20 years. Yeah, it was the extended that they played too. That was really good. I liked it a lot. The way they handle battles, it's just... Anyway, this is not a Lord of the Rings podcast. That's already there. If you guys want a Lord of the Rings podcast, there's already one that exists with Robots Radio. Just go listen to that. I think it actually is just called Lord of the Rings Lorecast. I have no idea. I don't remember the names of a lot of there's a lot of shows on Robots Radio. You should just look through the categories, because there's a lot in there. I'm a big fan of the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. I like that one a lot. Those guys know a lot about that franchise that I don't, because I'm losing track by this point. Apparently, in Valhalla, you're a reincarnation of Odin or something. I don't know. It's all over the place.
Oh.
So, dude, gods are just a thing now in Assassin's Creed. Like, gods are just first civilization people.
Interesting.
It's weird. Anyway, Halo ring. It's just redundant, James.
And anyway, Shield Worlds.
Shield Worlds, the conservation sphere, yeah, it's a slightly smaller Shield World. It's designed to conserve things. It just kind of does that. It's built around an artificial star. It's pretty cool that they could just do that, but that's kind of just it. But then there's the micro Dyson spheres. I'm sure you could fully understand what that means. It's a Shield World, but small.
And now how about the ones that were like... Actually, no, that's different. Continue.
No, say it.
No, I was on the wrong thing.
But I'm very curious about what you were wrong about.
See, you say micro Dyson sphere, and like in the Kilo 5 trilogy, and in what is it? Something Onyx. Is it Shadows of Onyx, or is it the other one?
Ghosts of Onyx.
Ghosts of Onyx, yeah. So in Ghosts of Onyx, they enter a Dyson sphere. It's using a slip space, like it's in slip space. So Onyx sort of falls apart, and in its place is a slip space disturbance, which contains the Dyson sphere. The disturbance itself is very small. The Dyson sphere, in actuality, when it comes out of slip space, spoiler alert, is extremely large. So
whoa, I'm so glad you bring that up. Onyx is a micro Dyson sphere.
I see.
If you would like me to
extremely large.
If you would like me to tell you exactly why, I could just read word for word what's on Halopedia, just because like I knew that it was its own kind of Dyson sphere. I did it because it was completely different than other Shield Worlds, but I didn't know exactly what it is, so obviously I'm just looking at information just to make sure that I'm brushed up on this stuff, but it does answer that question.
Yeah, I also like going through it in Ghosts of Onyx and in Kilo 5, there's so much going on that it's hard to fully nail the description of the Shield World of Onyx.
Yeah.
And so at one point I had the wrong image in my head, and when I went through it the second time, I was like, oh, I got it wrong. This is what it actually looks like. Now I don't remember what it's supposed to be. So yes, if you could tell me so that I could actually remember what it's supposed to look like.
Okay. Well, you'll first of all recognize the name Sarcophagus then.
Yes.
That's what Onyx turned into. Though it's still referred to as Onyx.
Yeah.
The main component of this type of Shield World is a Dyson sphere located within a bubble of compressed slipstream space. The only entrance to the interior is a small portal within the core of an artificial planet built around the core. Access to these Shield Worlds is possible only upon the imminent activation of the Halo Array. The Dyson sphere within this type of Shield World is enormous. Sarcophagus, for example, is 2 astronomical units, 300 million kilometers, in diameter. As with the more common conservation spheres, micro Dyson sphere type Shield Worlds feature vast terraformed surfaces and a single artificial star. The inner Dyson sphere resides within a slipspace bubble and is thus accessible only from the core room antechamber in the heart of the artificial planet formed around the structure. In normal space, the slipspace bubble is radically smaller than the interior, being only a few meters in diameter, hence the moniker micro Dyson sphere.
Okay, so I was right.
Yes.
Wow. So I was wrong.
You were wrong about being right, and then you were right about being wrong later on.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your wrong was righted because you were wrong.
If you could clarify something for me for my own mental image, because like I said, I had one thought and then I realized it was wrong. So, is it like the outside of the Dyson sphere? Obviously, you've got the metal sphere, right?
Not for all of them, but yeah.
Right. So, is it like a halo where you go to the inside of that and it's along like the edge? Like if you have, like if you just take a halo and then whoosh, close it all the way around.
Based on what we see in Halo 4, not necessarily, because you're not on the interior. You can see the metal ceiling above you.
Right.
So that's why I described it as there's a surface under the surface.
And that's why I'm thinking there might be different ones, because I feel like on Onyx, on Sarcophagus, that one, the world was inside was along the edge.
Well, allow me to tie it back to the games again. It's the shield world that you go into on Halo Wars 2. It was double-sided. One side was a normal planet, everything was normal. But if you flew through it and came out the other side, when they collided with that Covenant ship.
Yeah.
Serena's like, am I the only one freaked out that we're inside the planet? And you can clearly see to the other side of the planet. So those shield worlds do in fact exist, and they're just double-sided.
So for Sarcophagus specifically, which way is it?
Well, based on that description, I guess I would say that it's one of those ones where you can see to the other side clear. Okay. And probably is just coating the interior.
It's so far that it seems like it's just a sky. Like
that
so
would mess
big.
with me. I would go insane.
It's an artificial sky because you see the sun there. So you think that that's how it is. But I can't remember. I can't remember if it was a world inside a sphere and there's a sun somewhere.
Okay, let's see. Sarcophagus is a Dyson shell, a massive artificial structure encircling a star. At approximately 2 astronomical units or 300 million kilometers in diameter, corresponding roughly to the diameter of Earth's orbit, and weighing approximately 1.37 solar masses, the sphere is by far the largest known megastructure created by the Forerunners. According to Halsey's calculations, the internal surface area of the sphere is approximately 500 million times the surface area of Earth, or 255 quadrillion kilometers squared. Despite its massive size, while inside the artificial planetary shell of Onyx, the structure was contained inside a slipspace bubble of compressed dimensionality, making its apparent diameter only about 23 centimeters.
So it's a shell around a star?
Yes, Onyx is.
Okay, so that's what I needed to clarify, because like I try to visualize whatever books I'm reading or listening to so that I can see whatever is going on in my mind, and that was the one thing that I kept getting mixed up on, because I think I imagined something like Requiem, where it's the shell and then there's the world inside, but Onyx, the world is like on the inside of the shell.
Yeah, it's actually addressed right here. The sky inside the shield world appears solid blue. The landscape on the other side of the sphere is not visible as a result of the shield world's enormous scale, unlike on smaller shield installations such as Trove. So there are other shield installations, like the one in Halo Wars, where you can see clear to the other side.
Exactly.
And actually, hey, look at that. Trove is the one from Halo Wars. There you go.
Hey. Yeah.
Oh, and it appears in another book. Hey.
It's really funny that they refer to Onyx as a micro Dyson sphere when it's absolutely enormous.
I mean, it makes sense. Perceivable, the way you see it, it is only a couple centimeters wide.
Until it shifts back to normal space.
Just casually consumes everything. I don't even know how that works. Do you get okay, how did it work in the book? Did it just like absorb everything around it, or did you get pulled into an alternate dimension?
There was enough room for it to, so like it said, you go through the portal in the so Onyx was the planet. Onyx was the Forerunner planet.
Yeah.
Which was built around the core, which had the portal to Sarcophagus.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever Sarcophagus got brought back into real space, back into our dimension, basically, there was enough space, like all ships had to get out of the way, and like go however far so that there was enough room, and then like there was a little like weird feeling, I guess, like it would be going into slip space like on a ship because of the Shaw Fujikawa drives, and then they're like, wait, what happened? There's just black. Oh wait, the black is the Dyson sphere. It was just blocking everything, and they didn't realize that the black was the Dyson sphere, and it was just so massive.
Terrifying.
Right.
That is horrifying.
One thing that you might be able to compare it to for size, I know that there is a Dyson sphere in one of the Star Treks. I can't remember. I feel like it's Next Generation. Yes, I think in Next Generation they run into a Dyson sphere and they have a callback with Scotty from the original Star Trek stuff.
That's cool.
And that gives a little bit of scale as to how big. I don't know how big that Dyson sphere was, but like the curve was basically like they were on the outside of the Dyson sphere, and they couldn't see. It was hard to see a visible curve in the sphere because it was that big. So that might be a good reference if you wanted to look at that to see how big it was. But yeah, that's how big it is.
We have successfully talked about Lord of the Rings, Assassin's Creed, and Star Trek in one Halo Lorecast episode.
Yes, it's so helpful though, because there's so many things that are similar but a little bit different. So it's easy to have other things to give context to it.
Absolutely. That's like I said, it's been a tried and true thing, but it is easily comparable for that reason. Although it does harken way back to the conversation that we had at one point about like who would win in a fight, all of Star Wars's forces or Halo's forces. And we're like, oh, it's not even a contest.
There's just too many Covenant. There's just way too many.
The fact we can't even number them. There's a large number. Oh, by the way, Brian, I'm gonna make you sad because this could have been a thing. I'm sending you a picture. I found this fake image. For context, after he looks at it, I'll explain. But it'll make you sad that it's never happened.
Yeah.
So it's a fake beta build image that someone made of a Halo Ghosts of Onyx main menu game, like game main menu. It looks great though.
It does. It would have made a good game. It would have made a very, very good game.
What is the fear behind making books into games?
Is there a fear? I haven't really heard of that much as a concept.
I don't know. Well, the thing is that like there's just everyone wants a harvest game. If Shane were here in this episode, he would already starting to talk about how much he wishes Harvest was a game. Everyone wants that. And it's like there's so many really cool things that happen in the novels that are easily able to be turned into a game that, you know, why not?
Yeah. I mean, there's massive battle sequences and many of them that are easily expanded on in a game. And then there's story elements that you can just basically rip straight from the book and give visuals to. Like, yeah, that'd be perfect.
Hey there, Halo fans. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our friends right after these messages.
Yeah, and it's different than just trying to copy something and paste it. This is like expanding what people expect. Although there is the argument that some people have made in the past related to we're going to pull in another universe here, gentlemen. Harry Potter. There's a lot of people who don't want to watch the movies because they have a very definitive idea of what Harry Potter looks like in their head, and they don't want it to just be Daniel Radcliffe.
Right. I mean, for me, so I hope this doesn't make a ton of people mad at me, although it might, and I understand. I have not read or seen Harry Potter yet. I do have plans to do both, but I am not sure which one to do first. Because I know, and I have personal experience with, going back to Lord of the Rings, book versus movie. I know there's plenty of things that are changed. I know there are some things that... I know there are some things from the movies that I like. I know there are some things from the book that I like. I don't know which one to do first, but I feel like even without having watched the movies, I feel like even if I just read them first, I would still see Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter, like in visualizing. I'd see what's her name as Hermione. I'd just see. Yeah, I would just see all of them as the characters just because I've seen like clips and stuff. Like, it's too late for that. They're already the characters.
Yeah, so I can kind of get it, but the good news is that go ahead.
I understand what you mean with wanting to have, like, you have a visualization of what you think it is, and then maybe the director of the movie has a different vision, and it comes out looking a little bit different. And yeah, I mean, that's inevitable, but I feel like there's a compromise that needs to be made, especially with something like Halo. Like with what I was just saying, with having trouble visualizing the Dyson sphere. Like, there's so much leeway in how things are described, and how they can be brought to life, that there's just so much to be expanded on, that the only way to miss out is if you're just so set on your own interpretation of it.
Yeah.
So I think it would only be a loss if... I don't think there is any upside to not trying to make books into games if there is enough content there for gameplay.
And plus, I really liked the Fall of Reach versus Halo Reach debates. Let's bring them back. Let's get some more games out here to cause some more problems.
Yeah.
I still don't think there's that. Like, someone's going to have to explain to me what the big problems are, because as far as I could remember, Fall of Reach, you see the end of the Fall of Reach, and Reach shows what the rest of the battle looked like. So
there were a few continuity issues with who was where.
That part is very true and very much unexplainable. But I think the part that people bring up to me the most is Fall of Reach says that the battle took like a couple days, but the game clearly shows that it took like a month for Reach to fall.
Does it?
Yeah, it starts in like early August and ends in late August or something.
Oh, I didn't realize that. It's
a common complaint. You'll find it all over Reddit.
See, I just don't go to Reddit that often.
I don't either. I only really go there if I want some detailed list of all of the Halo pieces of content in order.
I'll also go there if I'm troubleshooting loading mods, because there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, actually. When it comes to actual practical stuff, Reddit is very trustworthy, because there's people who have tried things, and you don't have to anymore.
Exactly. Everyone else has already had the same issues.
I'll stay away from all the other communities, though. I'm cool without that. I just want the practical part.
Straight up, if like I'm struggling to find a solution to a problem, I swear every time I just add Reddit to the end of the search, someone has gone through the same thing and already has like 100 people telling them the answer.
Yeah, literally you can just copy paste your issue into Google, and then Reddit, it'll pop up and be like, here is the exact issue you were having. Here are a bunch of different solutions from a bunch of different people for every single possible operating system and version of the game you might be running, like everything.
Wait, what? Hold on. I'm still reading about Shield Worlds, because I do plan to eventually talk about Shield Worlds during this episode about Shield Worlds.
Yes.
Oh. Interesting. Wow. Okay, so all right. Trove, the Shield World from Halo Wars.
Which I barely remember, because we still need to finish our Halo Wars 2 playthrough.
You mean Halo Wars modded, or
both? But Trove was in Halo Wars 2, right?
No. That's the arc.
Then I need to play Halo Wars 1 again, apparently.
Yeah, because Halo Wars 1 goes from Harvest to Arcadia to still on Arcadia for like 2 or 3 missions. I think it's 2. And then you go chase after a Covenant ship. They go to the Shield World. Then they're on the Shield World for like the rest of the game, and then it kaplooey thanks to Sergeant Forge.
Right, I completely forgot that. So
I didn't.
Yes, I need to really. I wonder why.
I'm sorry, I don't really know a whole lot about Halo. I don't really play it that much.
Yeah, I had forgotten that. So yes, we need to finish Halo Wars.
We do, and it's a really good mod. I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called All the Units, but it's very good. It's a very cool mod. The game can barely handle it, but it's a really good mod.
Yes. May have had a few crashes along the way.
It's like 3, so 4, 5, I think. Anyway, yeah. So in the books, I've mentioned before that there's a trilogy so far of Forge's daughter.
I had forgotten that you said that, but that sounds cool.
Yeah, I also think so, because her story crosses over with 343 Guilty Spark at some point, and that's kind of cool. Yeah, she actually, I don't know how. I'm not even going to try to read into it because I don't want the story spoiled for me on that part. But at some point, she ends up at the remains, the debris of the planet that her father blew up.
Oh.
So that's already a really nice setup.
Nice.
That's already a maximum population.
Forge is down.
Forge is down. Forge is back up. Forge is down.
Planet explodes. Forge is down.
Oh. Why hasn't anyone made that meme? I just realized. No, I don't think anybody did it.
You are welcome. It is time to revive Halo shitposts for that one meme.
Oh my gosh. I wonder how many people are like listening and they're like, oh, I remember Halo shitpost. Yeah, that was me. That was me.
It was me. It was him. Sorry.
It was me.
It was him.
Let's see. So there was Genesis. That's the one from Halo 5. It's supposed to be this thing that can create seed worlds, which I guess are these. It's basically able to develop new worlds and then populate them.
Seed worlds? Is that what you said?
Seed worlds, yeah.
Okay.
And then also Genesis was the last gateway facility that connected to the domain. Hence why Cortana was on that planet. But yeah, that was another shield world. All the different... Actually, no, I don't think Halo 5 had a shield world. No, it was just... Yeah. No, wait, no, it did. That was where Genesis... Oh gosh, I don't know why I just had that brain fart. Yeah, no, Halo 4 and Halo 5 both had a shield world. So there was Requiem and then there was Genesis, and man, there's been a lot of shield worlds ever since 343. It was like, I like it. Let's roll with it.
Oh yeah.
Finally, the new game, Shield World.
So just to clarify with my own memory, Shield Worlds were the alternative to Halos, yes?
Yes.
And it was the Didact that was like, hey, we should do Shield Worlds, and everyone else was like, no, we should do Halos and kill everything.
Yes, and initially they were on board for Shield Worlds, but then the builders were like, but we can make it so things can live on our things too. And they're like, oh, and then they went with the Halos.
So, practically speaking, and I guess also philosophically speaking, which do you think, like, obviously we know that to a certain extent the Halos worked, forgetting the fact that the Flood showed back up and started being a problem again because some idiots let them out. Which do you think
talking about
is better? Is the better plan?
I'm thinking
James?
if you want to, I'm thinking for a bit if you want to take that, James.
I don't know. Genocide always seems like a good option to me.
This is like the third time on this show that you have advocated for the genocide.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, to an extent, if you do the shield worlds, so the plan with the Halos was we kill all of the Flood's food, right? And that stops the Flood. If you go with the shield worlds, that leaves everything else intact and leaves the Flood to expand and grow to proportions that honestly no one knows what they could end up doing if they took over the entire galaxy, right?
Well, so the concept of the shield worlds were that they were cost effective because they weren't expensive to make somehow, not like in comparison to the Halos that had weapon systems and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make a ton of them. Because I mean, based on the number system, I mean, one of them is a shield world that was an archive for the juridicals, those ones that catalog things and act as the lawmakers and the courts of the Forerunners, basically, is labeled as Shield World 10,021. So either there's a really weird number system, or there actually are tens of thousands of Shield Worlds that existed. So the thing is, though, is that if there's that many Shield Worlds that can be made that fast, I think it would be reasonable to suggest that you could put, in the similar fashion of Noah's Ark, you could just put every single like sentient being that you can possibly fit into those shield worlds, make them impenetrable, and then Bob's your uncle, Flood slowly starts to starve itself to death.
That's true. I feel like a possible complication is the fact that the Forerunners were at war with the humans.
That was a problem from start to finish, yeah. Although that war didn't really last. But it should be noted though, that war with humans and the flood, that war was like thousands of years. It wasn't a short war, and neither was the war with the flood. The war with the flood was also thousands of years. So the war with the flood just by itself, after they had defeated the humans, was thousands of years. They had a long time to figure out their plan, because it was a whole separate situation. Like once the halos and the shield worlds were presented and all of that, that was way after the human war wasn't over, like way after they had killed everybody basically.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't an issue.
It was not a smishu. It was not even an issue.
Not a smishu. Yeah. So that is true. Like, get everything you can. Like Noah's Ark, which is funny because basically those would turn into arcs.
Yeah.
Get everything that you can instead of genociding everything, and then just slip space all of your shield worlds, because they can do that. They can just, there they go. And then, like you said, then the flood just stars itself. I do think that would have been the morally beneficial plan.
I think it would have worked. The problem that they ran into, at least I think, based on what I've seen, is that builders are some pompous guys. Like, they really wanted the glory, was their big problem.
I'd say that is a theme, is that the Forerunners were like, we should be big boys.
They always had problems with rates trying to dominate over other rates, but the builders were the worst about it. Definitely, because they wanted everything to be based around them. They wanted the whole galaxy to revolve around them. Hence why it was such a big deal when the Master Builder actually had gained the control over the Druidicals. When you have control over the Druidicals, that's like having one of our political parties gaining control of the legal system. There's nothing to challenge them. They can do whatever they want because legally they have control. It's like Palpatine taking over the Senate.
I am the Senate. I hope you know I was already taking a breath to do that, as you said. Like Palpatine taking over.
So if that happens, which it did, then you can do whatever you want and no one can do anything about it. And that's a big problem, because now, since they can do whatever they want, now everything that they do is law. Even though Master Builder totally saw that what he did was a mistake and had no idea how to correct it, and then, caused the downfall of the galaxy. But I don't know. The shield worlds were a good idea, I think. But I mean, there is the one concern that I've thought about a couple times, because I was like, there has to be some sort of catch, because it couldn't just be like the shield worlds were perfect. And it's like, there is the concern of like, how impenetrable is impenetrable?
I mean, how impenetrable is a different dimension?
But not all of them were in different dimensions.
But they could be.
Maybe. It's not really said how easy that was to do.
Okay, let me put it this way. Huragox, at will, can create slip space bubbles.
That's adorable. I mean, so cool.
It is easy for them to do this.
So they can just create... Are you saying that they could just create the bubble and then just shove the whole thing inside of there just at will?
I don't know scale. I'm not sure about scale, but I know that they were able to just create slip space bubbles whenever they wanted.
Because like I was gonna say, if that's the case, then I would be wondering why Huragok aren't just going around in creative mode deleting Covenant.
Because that's not their programming.
But I wouldn't be. I don't know. If I was a floating squid jellyfish creature, I wouldn't be okay with being a slave.
I don't remember where it was said, but the reason that the Huragok were going along with the Covenant at all was because the Covenant told the Huragok that like humanity would be messing up Forerunner stuff. All Huragok care about is taking care of Forerunner stuff. That is their main thing. They like messing with technology, and They want to take care of the Forerunners, the Forerunner constructs. That is all they care about.
That's adorable, but it also is funny considering how often the Covenant screwed with Forerunner stuff.
Yeah.
Let's not forget Halo Wars set the charges. Destroy this place.
They definitely would have tried to hide that stuff from the Huragok.
Yeah.
So that's why the Huragok were going along with it, to an extent.
So then, why didn't the Huragok go into creative mode and delete the UNSC?
And delete the UNSC?
Because like, what's the like the slip space bubbles thing sounds awesome. I just don't know what that means or what that quantifies as.
On a small scale, let's say you wanted to keep food fresh without keeping it cold. You make a slip space refrigerator, which doesn't even actually refrigerate anything. It's just time is so slow in this slip space bubble that you reach in, grab whatever you want that you put in there maybe a year ago and it's still fresh. That's a small scale application.
Interesting. It's like a vacuum sealed bag.
Yes, it's a vacuum sealed. It's a time sealed bubble.
Dude, like Billy Mays could have sold so many Huragok.
And that's one of the things that was so cool. They find the Huragok. They're like, wait, we have insane applications with this, and we haven't been able to see them yet because Cortana immediately was like, actually, I'm in charge.
Oh no.
But
You know,
here's another thing that has been like messing with me is that the Didact is the one that created the Shield worlds.
Mm.
And he, like, the transition from him not wanting to kill everything to being so upset with everyone that when he wakes up he just wants to kill everything that's been messing with me.
Well, I'm sure that there's something about that clarifies that a little bit more, but the concept of it is, first and foremost, he's always hated humanity. There's never been a time that he hasn't hated humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And he specifically targeted humanity when he returned. So it wasn't that he wanted to kill everything. He didn't even attack the Covenant, the Storm Covenant. He just let them worship him.
Yeah.
Even classified them as more intelligent for that reason. And I mean, he called them primitives, but he still respected them more than he did humanity. And then there's also the other half of the situation, which is stuff that's like, you know, when he was alive, I mean, he, first of all, had been through a whole lot mentally by being betrayed multiple times by his own kind. Being locked in a cryptum twice doesn't do a whole lot of really good things to your head either, because when you're trapped in a cryptum, you're basically locked in a restricted, isolated part of the domain.
Mm.
And it's not fun. It's not like a slumber. And also when you come out, the Didact, I'm not exactly sure why he looked like that when he came out of the cryptum. It must not have been as long or something. Well, no, it would have been 100,000 years, so it was actually 10 times longer. But he should have looked a whole lot more not okay, because in the book, when he came out of his first cryptum, which he was only in for 10,000 years, or 1,000, it was 1,000 years he was in that cryptum, so 100 times. He came out, and Bornsteller noted that he kind of looked like a shriveled up little creature. Like he was wrinkled, he was gray, no blood flow anywhere, and he looked like he could barely move. And it took him like a couple days for his body to get completely recovered. And then he was super tall and really muscular and obviously much stronger than Bornsteller. But it took a while. So it's like the cryptum is not kind to you.
Yeah.
But as for him going sort of stir crazy, I guess is some way to put it. It was a combination of things, you could probably say. Is that, first of all, communicating with the primordial is not fun, not a good idea. You shouldn't do it. Mm-hmm. But he did it because he's the Didact and he believes he can do whatever he wants. He had fought a very long time, tens of thousands of years of just straight warfare, which eventually he won, but he had to get pretty brutal in order to do it. And then also exposing himself to the composer repeatedly. And that's not fun. That's also not a good thing to do, but it did make him immune to composing. Yeah. Or at least, or not just composing, but flood infection was the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that all kind of comes together into creating whatever it is that he became. Even the ISO Didact kind of recognized it, because he was like, you're completely different now. You're not a Promethean. You're not even a warrior servant. Like, he had classified the Didact as a completely new Forerunner, a completely new person, because of what had happened after he changed.
Interesting.
So the Didact really did just kind of go bonkers for no reason, but he did go bonkers. Like even Halopedia kind of touches on it by saying that 4 years after his return to the Ecumene, a meeting was arranged between the Didact, the librarian, and the ISO Didact, and the three gathered in the Didact's and librarian's family domicile, now ravaged by council agents looking for evidence of possible crime. The reunion soon turned out to be less than a happy one, with the Didact and his perceptions distorted by his madness, began to argue with the librarian and his own duplicate that the latter's actions and methods endangered the Forerunners, and new, more extreme strategies had to be adopted in order for the Forerunners to survive. So he deduced that the Flood were basically favoring humans, and now we're specifically targeting Forerunners out of an act of revenge for defeating them, I guess. And now he had also come to the conclusion that the librarian loved humanity more than her own people.
Yeah.
So his jumps to conclusions, he was taking leaps and bounds, but it was partially because of the madness that was induced within him. Actually, there is a whole thing about the fall from grace, but I don't want to read the whole thing because that's a lot of paragraphs. But the good news is that it is documented as to what happened to him, and it's not random, but it is surprising, to say the least, because he was a very level-headed and calm being before all of that went down. And even now, while he's insane, he's a very well-spoken guy. I would love to sit down and have a tea with him, if he's not choking me to death.
All right. I have one more question, which is slightly off topic, but also slightly on topic due to the fact that it happened in a shield world. Mm-hmm. When Chief finds and releases by accident the Didact, he's in the Cryptum, right?
Yep.
Why does it become a ship?
The Cryptum is so okay, that's actually a good one, because I had never thought about that.
The only reason I have that question is because I went through I've been going through it with Brandon, my friend Brandon, on Legendary, and he was like, wait, he was trapped in that and now it's a ship? Wait, why? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, let's see. That's what it is. It's because it's his Cryptum. Like, it's not just a Cryptum, it is his personal combat Cryptum. So like, okay, he can be locked inside of it, but once it's unlocked, he can use it free will. So the Didact's flagship, Mantle's Approach, was equipped with a personal combat Cryptum, which possessed many capabilities beyond the conventional one he used during his first exile. The librarian sealed the Didact in this Cryptum, which was discovered over 100,000 years later by John 117 and Cortana on the Forerunner Shield World Requiem. This Cryptum was spherical in shape, blah, 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 blah. The combat Cryptum, blah, 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 blah. This Cryptum locked its occupant in a contained slip-space stasis, shielding the Didact from the effects of the Halo Array. Unlike the one discovered by Bornstellar, this Cryptum had not withered the user. Hey, there we go. As the Didact remained as physically fit as he had been when he entered. It is unknown if this was the work of the Cryptum itself or the fact that the Didact wore his personal armor during the hibernation. The librarian had sealed the Didact in this Cryptum in hopes that long exposure to the domain and meditation on his choices would help him amend his motives and heal his mind, which had been severely damaged by the traumatizing encounter with the Gravemind. However, The domain was later revealed to be of precursor origin, and its neurophysical construction being obliterated upon activation of the Halo array. Oh no. This unfortunate reality resulted in the imprisonment of the Didact's consciousness as well. Trapped in total silence and darkness, the Didact would experience nothing but his own festering rage and madness for eons. Prior to his eventual release, the Didact also appeared to be awake in the cryptum to some degree, since he was able to perform covert tasks like hinder use of the cartographer and manipulate radio transmissions. As a combat, this is the last paragraph. As a combat cryptum, this cryptum doubled as a means of transport, being able to travel at massive speeds or even through slipspace if necessary, as demonstrated when the Didact escaped Requiem's core in his cryptum via a slipspace rift. It also had the capability to scan its surrounding environment or data networks in order to gather information. However, it had no weapons and was vulnerable to UNSC ones such as MACs and missiles. This cryptum was destroyed when the Master Chief detonated a Havoc tactical nuclear weapon inside the Didact's flagship, Mantle's Approach, which it had joined with.
That'll do it.
So there you go. That answered both of our questions.
It did. Thank you.
Man, where did that answer come from, I wonder? That would do it.
Where?
The Forerunner trilogy.
That'll do it.
I just haven't finished Silentium still. I have it behind me. I should read it a little bit before I go to bed tonight.
Perhaps.
James, how are you doing?
I swell. How are you?
Did you mean it when you said that you thought the Halos were the best choice above the Shield Worlds?
No.
No.
I didn't know if you actually thought, like, because here's the thing. You could make the argument that it actually is better to wipe out the galaxy instead of risk the potential of feeding the Flood.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at.
But it's also like you would have to have the right circumstances, because if there's enough Shield Worlds to hold everything, and they actually are impenetrable, then you would eventually starve the Flood. But that's like an if, and unfortunately the if has to remain an if because we haven't seen the Shield Worlds actually do their job.
Correct.
Ah.
Yeah.
Also,
what was it you said that once? I remember you can't have something without
I don't remember.
I'm sorry. That's a very old quote as well, and it didn't make any sense.
You're right about that, my friend.
You're the one that said it.
You know what? When I don't make any sense in context, it makes sense when I don't make sense. Like right now. See, that's just the sound he makes when he's thinking, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry about it. I'm down for the idea of the Shield World, though. I think the Shield Worlds would have been the best choice, but they just, first of all, the builders are mean. Second of all, the Forerunners probably felt rushed, and so because of that, just built the rings because it was faster. And I don't know. Maybe that's what all it is, and that's just the gist of it. And there's nothing more complicated than that. But it's Halo. There's always something more complicated.
Yeah, it is like questionable because like you've got these beings that they've had all this time, and then suddenly they're rushed, and they're like, we'll just do, I guess, what seems easier.
Yeah,
which is another thing that's evident, another evidence that they didn't really deserve the mantle.
No. And you know what? Even some of the Forerunners knew that.
Yep.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Tyler, Sarah, we are going to be ending our episode for the day. Next week, we're going to be talking about the Flood. And it's going to be really fun because the Flood, we've talked about it enough, but we haven't talked about it enough. You know what I'm saying? So next week's topic will be great. If you want to join us for our after show that we're going to be hopping over to here in a moment, you can head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/JumperScape. You can join our community as well at discord.gg/JumperScape. If you want to talk to me, James, or Brian, or even Shane, even though he's not here, you can find us on Patreon and on Discord, both. You can message on both places and we'll respond happily. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys had a good time, you two. Right?
Maybe.
What? And we'll see you all next week.
The library was produced and published by JumperScape Audio. Funding was provided by our fantastic patrons on Patreon. Big thanks to DarkSalad42 and Connor Clark. If you enjoy the show and wish to support JumperScape's future projects or get some sweet benefits, join our Patreon at patreon.com/JumperScape or become part of this truly special community at discord.gg/JumperScape. Thank you for your listenership, and we hope you enjoyed.